Now we're going to get to more of the meat and potatoes of the situation here. Benefit number 9, less chance of cancer. Regular ejaculation reduces your chances of developing prostate cancer. In an Australian study, men who ejaculated 21 times a month were least likely to develop cancer. It is further supported by researchers that sexual intercourse reduces the risk of prostate cancer, thus demonizing masturbation is actually harming our men. Obviously, well, some women can squirt or produce an ejaculate of their own, but that's not typical of women. But yeah, I mean, this is one time where I don't think women need to be studied in the study, but you know, it's very important. So yeah, this is what I said. Men who are not regularly servicing themselves, again, within reason, where it's appropriate, put themselves at greater risk for cancer. Is that social stigma, that social shaming, really worth the risk? I'd like to think by now some of you might be at least rethinking what having, where appropriate, an open sexual society might not be necessarily a bad thing, might actually have way more health benefits than bad. Stronger pelvic muscles. Sex involves the use of several muscles, hence regular sexual intercourse can help you develop stronger pelvic muscles. Furthermore, since the act of sex involves a range of muscles, it helps strengthen these muscles. For example, quads, your core, the upper back. Through regular sex, you can also maintain a stronger bladder and bowel functions. Strong muscles, calorie burner, improves your health. Sex seems like it takes care of you. Number 11 seems like it's almost a restating, but I think it's going into greater detail, so we'll keep it. Prostate protection. Most of the fluids you ejaculate is secreted by the prostate gland. If you stop ejaculating, the fluid stays in the gland, which tends to swell, causing lots of problems. Regular ejaculation will wash those fluids out and ensure the well-being of your prostate until old age. Problems may also occur when you suddenly change the frequency of ejaculation. In other words, don't want to have bladder issues, or I should say prostate issues later in life when those things are most prevalent. Sex. You know, what's it really hurting you? What's it really hurting your community? What's it really hurting society at large if you're doing it safely, consensually, and without children being present or participating? If you're doing it healthily, if you're doing it at the right times, if you're not doing it instead of doing things like a job or your daily duties, where's the problem? Why does this need to be socially stigmatized? Oh, because some people can be irresponsible with their sex, because sometimes outbreaks of and rises in things such as STDs occur. They're happening whether the stigma exists or not, or actually rather they're happening while the stigma is existing. If anything, you're driving more people to do things recklessly. When you have communities that will not sell condoms to willing customers, or look down on girls who have to have medically prescribed birth control, not necessarily in some cases, as I've found out in life, because they want to prevent birth, but to regulate their periods. Yeah, they're such a whore because they have to regulate their period, because they could actually bleed to death and die. But oh no, that's part of some sort of deity's plan. That's just God's way of punishing the wicked, whether they're actually having sex or not. Oh, how wonderful that irony is, isn't it? That there can be pure people who need birth control to regulate their periods, and we want to turn that into a social stigma in and of itself in certain towns. We have pharmacies that are supposed to fill medications that are prescribed, unless, of course, it's a case of fraud or somebody, has been known to overdose or something of this nature, that will absolutely flat out refuse, on religious grounds alone, not to sell women who would otherwise bleed out birth control for regulating their periods. For them, there is no exception. Birth control is murder. Some amongst your flock have to do this exact thing for this exact reason. And yet you want to say, no, you cannot do that, because to do that is against God. To do that is against what we believe as our collective societal morality, our mob morality. You have to bleed out for our ideals. I don't like this. None of you should like this. We have professionals in a field that are expected to do their job, that refuse to do their job because of social stigma, because it's what they think society expects of them. It's what they grow to expect of themselves. And this is progressive. This is helpful. I'm just not seeing it. I'm sorry. Induces sleep. After that great, lovely workout, you're bound to get good sleep. But guess what? Sex works the same way as exercise. The increased heart rate leads to increased post-coital relaxation. Cannot speak entirely today. Sex could be the next thing for insomniacs. So what really happens? Sex can relax you, hence if you're already tired, the act of sex will induce sleep. When men ejaculate, they become lethargic. This makes them sleepy. Now, number 13, you might say, is a gotcha one. But when sex is stigmatized, this little advantage is meaningless. Regular periods. Apparently, sex can improve your menstrual cycle. Sex regulates hormones, which in turn regulates the menstrual cycle. Sex reduces stress, which is one of the reasons women miss their periods. Sex seems like a better option than pills. That's great. But if you live in a town that looks down on somebody for needing birth control to regulate their period, and then also frowns upon regular sexual activity unless it's for procreation, even amongst married couples, then what is this person to do? You literally, with social morality, are sentencing this person, if they are to be a part of your society and to not be shunned, to not be denied opportunities, to not be fired from their job simply because they're trying to regulate their period, that they're not, I repeat, not having copious amounts of sex that you disagree with. You would rather they bleed out for your social morality, which is based on nothing, than to allow either them to have regular intercourse with a trusted partner to help regulate their hormones in their period, or to have the birth control, not because of sexual activity, but because it's for their own body. I don't know why this is so hard. I don't understand to some degree where the disagreement with people's health has to come into, that a person's health is worth less than their image, than their public persona, than the things that we look to them to be, that we expect them to be, for no other reason than we demand it. I'm sorry, I don't see the logic in this. I don't understand why social morality has to be held in such high esteem when it's not based off of anything. At least for what this is that I'm reading from, it's based off of something, a lot of somethings. A lot of somethings that took a lot of time to compile, not just people looking around and going, I don't like that, I don't like that, and I don't like that. Even though that and that have health benefits, and that is just innocuous, but I consider it offensive, all of these things are banned. All of these things are bad. And if you participate in them, we're going to treat you differently. We're going to dehumanize you so that it makes it easier for us to be cruel to you. Because, we might be monsters who then call you a monster, but at least we have ethics. We would never do this to anyone we consider human or moral. Meanwhile, people are dying, people are suffering, people in marriages that could work if they were able to communicate about simple things like sex are breaking up, are dissolving, are destroyed because of this inability to be open and honest, because of this ability to come to each other and be able to feel that the other person isn't going to look at us any different because we say, oh, I don't just like missionary. It's not the gays that are destroying marriages. It's us, it's ourselves. We're tearing ourselves apart thanks to sexual repression. Because why? We're not animals? Okay, fine, sure. But how are we any better? You think a lion out on the prairie ever thinks of its relationship as it's complicated? Only we could be so vain and arrogant as a species as to overcomplicate something as simple and as enjoyable and as healthy as love, sex, sexual relations. But oh no, morality comes before the health of the people. Do you see the problem? Can you see the problem?